Christ did not enter a man-made sanctuary that was only a copy of the true one. He entered heaven itself, now to appear for us in God's presence. Now, we've had readings from the book of Hebrews for the last several weeks. This is one of the last ones that we will get in our lectionary cycle for this year. But if there's a point to the book of Hebrews, it's almost encapsulated in that single phrase. That what we do here on earth, to honor, to praise, and to worship God, it is a reflection of what's happening in heaven. All the way back to the temple sacrifices, to us gathering here in prayer and in praise. Jesus himself is the one great true high priest. Jesus himself is the one true sacrifice. Jesus himself is the paschal Lamb of God, by whose blood was shed. We are atoned for, brought back to God. Death passes over once and for all. So the things that we do on earth, we mirror, we reflect what Jesus does perfectly, what happens in heaven eternally, and what is truly real, truly lasting. This is the stuff that matters. This is the stuff that when we reenact or we repeat, we simply reflect like a mirror reflecting light. Purely or poorly. Clearly or not so well. But this has happened once. And it has happened eternally, and it has happened perfectly. And what we do is to join heaven and earth and reflect that perfect sacrifice, that perfect love, and try to join in that eternal worship. So things point to them, they point past themselves to the stuff that really lasts. That's kind of the whole point of the letter to Hebrews. That everything that Judaism was doing, everything that basically we do here and now, points past us and to Him. Because that's what's truly real, and that's what truly lasts. So this concept of the earthly symbol that points to an eternal and an everlasting truth fits well, I think, with why we have so many guests here this morning, and why we will adjourn our service early and go outside to our new Veterans Memorial patio. Because things here on earth, they point past themselves to that which is true and real and eternal. We had a young man who, for his Eagle Scout project, has wanted to honor veterans and his own late father. And that memorial that's out there, it's a lovely spot, a place where you can sit, a place where our flag is held in honor, and you can be out amongst the beauty of nature. And yet, even that patio points to something else, something deeper and something truer, what has been made out of love by the hands and effort of scouts and their friends. Points to love and service and sacrifice that so many have offered on behalf of a nation and people they don't even know. Those veterans who have served in a variety of armed forces in a variety of capacities, circumstances, and campaigns, and even the families as well, who have helped supported them in their vocation, who have been left alone for months, years at a time, or even those who have had to say goodbye prematurely in this earthly life. And that patio and that effort points beyond itself to sacrifice that is true and love that is real, and helps us in some small way to honor those who have served and sacrificed, and to give thanks to God that He would choose to bless us and our nation for those who would be willing to defend our freedoms and to stand for our liberty and the liberty liberty of others. Now, I can't help myself. I'm trying to keep this as short as I can, but we had a reading from Ruth today. In our entire 3-year lectionary, we only get Ruth twice, 2 Sundays in a row, last Sunday and this Sunday, and that encapsulates the entire Ruth story because it's very short and it's very small. Last Sunday happened to be All Saints Sunday, so poor Ruth got kind of shifted to the side so we could be surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses. We now have the conclusion of the Ruth story, and I just have to. I am pathologically unable to avoid this. Even though I said I would preach very short, I have to say this. But I think there's a connection here as well again. So very quickly, let's remind ourselves of the Ruth story. We did this a few years ago when we saw it last time. It's a very small story. It's a very short story, and it's about small people. Kind of in the middle of nowhere. Elimelech from Israel, he's in the middle of a famine, so he moves his family to a neighboring country, a foreign country, a pagan country, because he wants his family to live. So he's there with his wife, he's there with his sons. His sons marry local, foreign, pagan girls. And then this man, Elimelech, he dies. And then his sons, they die. And suddenly, boom, just like that, these 3 ladies are left with only each other in all the wide world. And this is a desperate story. And these are desperate times. To be a widow at this point in history means you had absolutely everything against you. This was a desperate, dangerous time. So Naomi, the widowed mother, she says to her new widowed daughters-in-law, go back to your families. Maybe they can take care of you. I don't have anything for you. I'm going to go back home to Israel, and maybe some of my family will have pity upon you. And one of them does. She weeps, she cries, and she leaves. She goes back home to her family in Moab. But Ruth, who has now lost it all. She's married into this family thinking a life was about to begin. And now suddenly, just like that, it feels like it's all over. And Ruth says, I'm not going to go home because my home is with you. I don't care if we are not related by blood. You, Naomi, are my family. And she speaks those words that we now hear so often in weddings. Where you go, I will go. Your home will be my home. Your people will be my people. And your God will be my God. She says, we belong together, you and I. We are family. And no matter how hard, how scary, I stand with you. And so they do. They travel back. They travel back to Israel. Naomi goes back to her hometown, hoping and praying that some family member will have pity on these 2 poor widows, because otherwise what are they supposed to do? It's so bad that they're out there, and the way they feed themselves is that Ruth goes out on the fields where they're harvesting, and she goes and she picks up the stuff that's fallen on the floor. The gleanings, which they were, by the law of Moses, supposed to leave for the poor. That's how Ruth and Naomi feed themselves. And so finally it turns out that there is a relative, a male relative, who could fulfill the Mosaic law and be the kinsman redeemer. It's a cool word, kinsman redeemer. It basically says, I'm part of your family. There's been a death and there's a widow, so I will marry this widow. I will raise children, preserve and protect and redeem this family. I will save them from desperation, destitution, and death. This guy comes in and he says, well, I guess it's going to be my job, and you're not so bad looking, Ruth. So what do you bring to the table here? I mean, what kind of riches and wealth? And they're like, we're 2 widows and we got nothing. We're picking up stuff on the floor. And he's like, I think I heard my mother calling. I'll see you later. And he runs off. But there's another one, a local boy, who is also a relative, Boaz. And Boaz is moved by watching Ruth care for her mother-in-law, even though her own husband is dead. And he is moved by watching her character and integrity and trying to do things the right way. Not going off and trying to make a living any way a desperate woman might, but trying to do the right thing with integrity so that they both might live. And Boaz then tries to do the right thing. He says, I will be the kinsman redeemer, but that other guy had a better claim than me. I will make sure, since he's the closer relative, if he wants this marriage instead of me, he can have it. And of course, that guy, he took off. He hightailed it. He's not interested. And Boaz says, but I am. Oh, you woman of faith. Oh, you woman of integrity. Oh, you woman who said, I will not leave you, Naomi. I will go where you go because you and I are family. He says, that's the woman that I want. And Boaz marries Ruth. And that's sweet, and that's nice. And the whole book is like, what, 4 chapters long maybe? It's a couple of pages. And it's their sandwich in between important things. The book of Judges! The prophet Samuel. Tiny little story. 2 tiny little ladies. Who cares? So what? A couple of widows in the middle of nowhere. They live, they die, nobody pays attention, nobody notices. Except God does. Like Jesus noticing the widow who puts in the 2 small copper coins, and he sees with love and truth that she has given everything that she has to the glory of God. God does not neglect the small things, the small people, or the small stories. They are of infinite value to him. Ruth and Naomi are not nobodies, not to God. Small stories, small people, not to the Lord God Almighty. And he provides for them and he protects them. And this story, though it is short, is of momentous importance. You see, Boaz and Ruth, they have a son. Eventually this baby grows up, and Obed is his name. Now Obed has lots of sons. The youngest of them, he used to work out in the fields with the sheep. And the mighty prophet Samuel took that little shepherd boy and anointed him to be King David, king of all Israel. And through that line, Jesus himself comes. You tell me that's a small story? You tell me these are small people and it doesn't matter and nobody cares? God cares. Okay? This is a single Boy Scout troop. And this is one dude. I like Justin. He's kind of a nobody, right? You ever heard of him before? You see his name in the paper? Is he up in lights? He's no celebrity. I never knew his father. His father died when Justin was very young. I'm not sure how much Justin even remembers. And yet, no small stories. Not to God. This gift that he started, these other boys joined in. Parents joined in. Church folks joined in. We're going to go out in a few minutes and we will bless and dedicate it together. You tell me that's a small story and nobody knows and nobody notices and nobody cares? And there are veterans out there who are serving and they're feeling like they're there all alone. They're feeling like their families are left all alone. Some of them will lose families while they are stationed overseas and definitely feel alone. Like what they do doesn't matter because they're a small nobody and their story is unimportant except they aren't to God. Like the widow with her 2 small coins, like Ruth and Naomi, just a pair of widows out in the middle of nowhere, like a young man seeking to honor his dad, seeking to honor veterans. It's just some small neighborhood church with a lovely little patio. These are not unimportant stories. These are not unimportant people. For Christ, who is the great high priest, who enacts these sacrifices once and for all, who is there at the throne of God the Father Almighty interceding on behalf of us, who knows us by name, and who knows our small, unimportant stories, and who loves us enough to have shed his own blood and died for us all. Not unimportant stories and not unimportant people, but of infinite importance. These stories and you to Christ our Lord. I'd like to bring Justin up, if I might, for he has a few comments to make about his Eagle Scout project. Justin Teichgraeber.
Hello, I'm Justin. I worked on the project outside. I'm almost Eagle Scout. Just give it a few more days. And I'd like to thank you for coming. 7 years ago, I was initiated into the Boy Scouts of America. The ultimate goal of becoming an Eagle Scout, the highest rank you can achieve. For this, you have to collect a certain number of merit badges and achieve other Scout ranks of Scout, Tenderfoot, Second Class, First Class, Star, Life. And lastly, plan, design, and lead a project to better the community. My project was a memorial to those who served and protected our great country. For the first few months, I had trouble deciding a project, switching ideas, when I finally came up to the idea of a project devoted to veterans. My father was a major in the Marine Corps, so I wanted to dedicate a project to him, and to the many others like him who had the courage to protect us. Sadly, he passed away when I was the age of 6, after battling ALS. I feel grateful that I can dedicate something in the honor of him and many others. If you wish to come see my final project outside, you can come join me for a flag ceremony afterwards. This church service is over. And thank you. Thank the veterans who have come for us. Thank you.
Lord God of hosts, whose power and authority is from everlasting to everlasting, keep under your protecting care the armed forces of the United States of America and all who serve therein. Grant they may be a sure defense and a safeguard for the people of the United States, providing security for all who come and go in peaceful and lawful pursuits. Support them wherever duty takes them, on land or sea or in the air, and grant that they may fulfill their high calling as defenders of justice and freedom. In times of peace, keep them from evil. In times of danger, grant them fortitude. In times of conflict, give them the gift of your presence. May our men and women in the armed forces stand firm as they guard our goodly heritage. The gifts of freedom and liberty, justice and peace may be transmitted from one generation to the next.